All right. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Am I recording? Can everyone hear me? All right. Sorry it took a few minutes. This is one of my, I went down a rabbit hole with some fun code to show you guys how this stuff works today to get some commands you're not going to see normally. So I don't know how much time we're going to spend today on database diagrams, but let's go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, sure. Go away. Okay, share. I wanna. Oh. Okay. All right. Here we are. Okay. So let me go back over to here. That is okay. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Okay. So what this week is to excuse me. Everyone in my house managed to catch COVID except me. So I'm fighting it because I'm in absolute denial that I can catch it. But I do have a really fun cough that's going on here. So I'm still testing negative, so you guys are safe. All right. Okay. So today what we're talking about, we're going to play with some data. We're going to play with manipulate some data, have some fun with it. We're going to talk about inserts and updates. Okay, because you know you guys are experts on select statements now. You guys knows all about how to write a select statement. So we're going to talk insert, update, and deletes today. Okay, and we're going to talk about some data manipulation. We're going to talk about some commands that you may or may not, well, you probably not ever heard of before, and they're not in the lesson because I just needed to do some fun stuff. So okay. So let me go over to my workbench here. Okay, so the first command I'm going to talk to you about, I mean, I use this later on, so I'm just going to explain it ahead of time, is this random command. Select random just generates a random number that's less than 1. You can just do it. Okay. I have here, then I have random number and then random times 50. So now it's 49.33. But this number is a really nice number, but it's got way too much past the decimal point. I don't want that. I just want the whole number, right? So there's this command floor. And what floor does, it gets everything past this point. So if I run this, now notice that these two numbers aren't the same because every time you run rand, it's a different number. Okay, so it's random. It's completely random. So it's any number less than 0, less than 1. So here I've got random times 50, random times 50, but I want the floor of it. I just want the number and not the decimal. Okay, this is good if you ever want to do random numbers. Now, I made this here because this is a perfect opportunity to talk about what a case statement does, which is not for, you guys don't do this for another 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not really sure. But what I did here was I have this case statement. So what a case statement does, it checks the data before it presents it. And when it presents it, it'll do what you want it to do. So here, and we'll talk more about this later, this is a good intro into case statements. So select random times 50, we've done that. Case. When floor is less than 10, then I want you to add 10 to it. Otherwise, just show me the number. Now, the trick is, and why this is really kind of weird, is this rand and this rand and this rand will all be different. Okay, there's a way around doing that, but I just was writing this code really fast. So it's going to check to make sure that this number is greater than 10. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's run it this way, and you'll see what happens. So here, I got the random number, and I don't know which one it was. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select A, set at A equal to, give me this. Okay. Right. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rooms over here. I'm going to take this. I did all this right before, so I wouldn't write any code on the fly, but it seems like I'm writing code on the fly. I'm going to do here, show me at A. And then when at A is less than 10, then at A plus 10. Else just okay. Okay. Now that should work if I had a select statement there. Select. Okay. So here, so this will be a better example. So here I'm setting the rent. So this is just how you declare a variable. Surprise. You will never talk about this in this course whatsoever. We never deal with it here, but that's how you declare a variable. Select and the name, whatever you want to call it. I'm just making it very simple, calling it at A. Set, and I'm setting it to a value, which is going to be this, okay? So then I'm going to select the add A, and then I'm going to see if add A is less than 10, add 10 to it. If not, just show me what add A is. So if I run this, okay. So add A was 2, but it turned it into 12. It didn't change it because it was 27 originally. Okay. Case statements are very, very cool. They're a lot of fun. I think, like I said, I think it's not next week, but the week after, I think we talk about them in detail. But this is a good preview on how they work. And you get to play with some number manipulation with like this stuff here. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? It's fun. Like these, you won't talk about anywhere. Declaring variables, we won't talk about here. We talk about the case statement. Okay. And then we got this mess here. Okay. So here, I'm declaring a variable. I'm setting that variable to the red dog. Okay. And then I'm selecting the variable, and then I'm selecting using this replace statement saying, this is the string value. If you see this, change it to this. Okay. And it worked. Now you want to see something super annoying about this? Isn't that just stupid? Isn't that just crazy annoying so MySQL is not case sensitive when it comes to name or from commands. It is case sensitive when it comes to the data inside the table, which in my humble opinion is frustrating because I was sitting here writing this going, why isn't this working? This isn't working. I don't understand. I'm like, oh, there you go. That's why it's not working. So you know how we cheat with this is we look at this and we go, so what that does, anyone take a guess what that does? With the
makes it all lowercase, right?
Makes it all lowercase. If I do that, and look, it's all lowercase, and now it works now. Conversely, upper does the opposite. Okay, so yeah, so if you need that, so that's that. So here, replace, great command, fun command to work with, useful. Especially replace would work like, oh, I'm not gonna, I'll try to write this when we get to case statements. Replace and case would work together. Like if you were like having returns of someone's age and you don't want to show it if they were under 18, you could use a case statement and a replace to make that happen. I'll write that code later. There's no way I'm going to write that now and be successful in it, but I'll write that later and I'll show you that, guys. But it's kind of fun. So here I've got the concat command. Concat is short for concatenation, which means I'm just joining a bunch of strings together. So here I do this. I have my variable W, I have the red dog, and my variable X, the purple dog, and I run it, and it just makes the red dog and the purple dog. Now here, now I don't know if we talked about this before, but if you notice, the title of the column is whatever that is, and that's inappropriate. So we can change that to, you know, as okay, and we can change that to what we want it to be. So if you ever have a situation where you're using a case statement up here with the case statement, if memory serves, I do it here as rando. Nope. Okay. Is this where I don't do that? Yeah. Nope, that's not either. I forgot how to alias this. Is it here? Nope, that's a. I'll have to figure out where it is. But you need to alias that out too, or you get, you know, whatever that works as. So we don't want that to be there. So we want to fix that. I remember how to do it. The three different ways, doing it the as here, and then doing without the as, and then doing, so just so you know, just for different dialects, this is how you do it in in Microsoft SQL Server. You put the name in front of the after the case statement, and for Oracle, you do it down here. And apparently it doesn't want to work either way here in MySQL. So my brain is not going to let me figure out it. But anyway, so you get the idea. You do want to modify it so it doesn't, you have it to where it looks nicer than that. Okay, because when if you take this query and send it out to a web page, that's what's going to come up. And you don't want that to show up there, right? You want to alias these things. All right. So that was fun. So let's talk about some insert, update, and delete statements, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and see this, drop this table persons. It is there, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create a person, create a table called persons with an ID, a last name, a first name, and age, and the primary key is going to be person ID. I'm going to create that right now. All right. So now I'm going to add in, get rid of this because this was just me playing. I moved to the top. Okay. Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and insert into persons this one value. And I can do, now I want you to point to the screen, you guys are going to see it. I did insert into persons and I put these three values into it, okay? Because those are the three values. Notice I didn't do person ID in that because person ID is auto incremented. I don't need to put it in there because it automatically goes there. If I put it in there, it will let me and then auto increment after that point. But I didn't want to do that. So here I'm going to insert a persons. I've got 16 there, right? What happened? Yeah, it let me put it in there. So if I do select from persons, there's that, right? Oh, wait. Oh, wait, this failed. I take that back. Okay. So sorry, my bad. I was thinking something else. I was in Microsoft SQL Word. This failed because I did not have 4 values that needed to go in here. Okay. Now, so this one failed. This one went fine because I had the 16 there for the ID value, right? So here I get first name, last name, age. So now I'm saying, and this is generally how I will write insert statements. Okay. You'll notice here I did these two without saying what columns they went into. Okay. This one failed because I didn't have enough columns. This one didn't fail because I had 4 columns. Okay. And the trick is if I do it this way, it has to be in this order. Okay, it has to be ID, last name, first name, age for it to work. If I did it any other way, it wouldn't work, right? So here I've got insert into persons, last name, first name, and age. I don't have the ID, the person ID, because I don't need it. It's auto increment. So if I do this, it'll work, and it'll start with 17. Okay. Now here I have insert into persons, and I've got the columns in the wrong order than they are in the table, because the table's last name, first name, age. Here I've got age, last name, first name. And I've got the values correct, 102 Williams and Willie. So if I run it now, this will work because I'm saying what specific columns to go into on the select state in the insert statement. And if I look here, it shows me the three of them. Okay. The other thing I can do, okay. I can also use a select statement to insert into my database. So here I've got insert into persons, last name, first name, and age, the lower last name, the lower first name, and a random age, right? From actors. If I run this is everything from the actors table that's going to go in there, right? So if I run this, I've added 200 rows, and I go here, and I've added a whole bunch of rows. Okay. I can also, there's a way, I don't know, let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I remember how to do this. No, there's a way to do I've been writing Microsoft SQL Server all day, so there's a way to do multiple rows. I will get some code for you and put it in the notes when I publish the video, but there's a way to do it this way as well. So you're not writing the insert statement all the time. Okay. So we've got the one way to do it, and then we got a whole thing where we can just insert directly into the table. Okay. Everyone understand insert commands? Okay. Updating commands. This is when you're updating the data in the table. You've got to be very careful with these, particularly these and delete statements, because if you're not, you can accidentally set everything. Like here, I just want people between 12 and 25 to have their first name done in uppercase. So when you update person, set first name equal to upper first name, where age is between 12 and 25. If I run this and then run my select statement, there's 12 and 25, there's 12 and 25. So all these are now uppercase. Okay, so I can update based on a criteria in here. I can also go here and say update on an inner join. So I'm taking persons, inner joining on customer, and where the last names are the same, I set age 999.99. Okay, am I going too fast? Everyone doing good? Okay, so if I run this and I do a select statement, I had 46 rows affected, and do select statement here. Look, there's Jennifer Davis is now, and then Willie Williams. All these people here are all 9999. Now, the reason why this is a little on the dangerous side, let's say I'm messing around and I accidentally run this. That changes everything. I didn't want everything changed, but it changed everything. This is why This is like in 3 weeks. I was going to do it now, but I'll do it later. This is where you get things called transactions and isolate them in there. Because if you do begin trans, do I'll get the exact syntax for you, but if you do this begin and roll back, if you run this command, it'll make the changes. It'll see that it's successful, but then it will roll it back so it never happened. Okay. Or you can use the word commit and then it will complete it. So you want to get these, wrap these around them. So you don't wrap in transactions. But like I said, this is a preview on something we're going to talk about in 3 weeks. So just kind of an update or a preview. Okay. So here, everyone got updates, how updates work. Updates are also called upserts. I'm going to talk about that in a second, why that's the case. So here we got deletes. Delete from persons where last name is like F. If we run that, it's deleted 2 rows because people last name with F. Here, I can delete persons from persons, interjoining customer where the last names are the same from customer. So I can do the same thing with an update that I do with a delete and run that. And I deleted 46 rows. Okay. Again, if I just do this, it deletes everything. Now, I've got this command here called truncate table. So let's talk about this first. So now, when I insert into a table, it adds a new row to that table. It just puts a new row into it. When I delete a row from the table, it deletes a row from the table. When I update a row in the table, what actually happens is it deletes the row and reinserts the row. That's why it's called an upsert. Okay, it deletes the information and redoes the information. Now the reason so when I do delete persons from delete from persons where the name's the same, what happens on the mechanic side of this, it deletes 1 row at a time. So here I deleted 46 rows. It went really fast, right? But it literally deleted 1 row at a time. Okay. And this, remember I talked about the transaction log last week? Did I talk about the transaction log last week? Or was it the week before? How everything gets written to the log before it gets written to the database. Do you remember that? Everyone remember that? No? Let me bring that up real quick. Let me just talk about that real quick, because okay, so I've got, here's my database, okay, and here's my log. Okay, and here's my terminal where someone's updating data. And what they're doing here is they're updating 100,000 rows, okay? So what happens is you would think that when you update the data, it goes from here directly to the database on the disk. It does not do that. Okay, so what happens is when you update data, the first thing that happens is it writes to the log. So all the change you're making, it writes to the log first. Okay, and then here at the log, it's got this thing called a buffer. Everyone familiar with what a buffer is? So like when you're watching YouTube and well, I don't know if this happens anymore. Back in the day when YouTube was just started and like you had a really bad slow connection, you see buffering. So it's trying to load some data on your side, and then it would let you watch until you ran out of room and then keep buffering it over. Okay, so it's basically the same thing here. So the computer here wants to update to 100,000 rows. So it's writing into the log first, and it reached the point where it says, okay, I've reached my buffering limit, so I'm going to start writing over to the database. Okay, and then it starts going. So you got this whole thing where you're writing it here, and after you reach a certain point, whatever it is, it starts writing over to the database. Okay. The reason it does this is, let's say, like the power goes out and there are only 50,000 rows in, right? And then the database reboots and it comes back up and only the half the updates are done, right? This is a problem because you've got dirty data. You've got data that's incomplete. So what happens is when the database comes back up online and you're in the middle of doing this, so you got something here called an LSN. That stands for last sequence number. And over here, it's got an LSN. And when the database comes back up, these have got to match or the database comes up as suspect. Okay, if these two numbers don't match, then the database is suspect. So what will happen is when this initial update happens, it says, hey, I'm updating 100,000 rows. Here it comes, right? So it starts loading into the log, starts buffering over into the database. And if the power goes out and it comes back up, the first thing it goes, hey, my LSN is like that. But your LSN is, let's reverse that. No, just make this bigger. Let me just make this bigger. I should have. Your LSN is like, there, right? Now this is all getting great. Eraser, thank you. Okay. So your LSN is right. So it's going to go, wait a second. We're still not good here. I'm a perfectionist on this. Okay. There we are. Okay, that's better. So my LSN here is 1254551, but the LSN in the log is 153256. So it's going to go, wait a second, everything's in the log here. So let's go ahead and write it over here. But it's going to make sure that the transaction was completed first. So it's going to look and say, okay, is this all of the data we're supposed to transfer over? If that answer is yes, it'll finish writing everything over and it'll be like it never happened and everything will be there, right? But if it knows that this isn't the full transaction, the full 100,000 rows, then it's going to roll everything back to what it was before the update started. So it's a built-in survival instinct in the database to make sure that the data does not get corrupt. Okay. So, and I bring this up when we're talking about deletes is because when I do an update, it goes to here, it says, insert this data, delete this data, and brings it over here and does it. When I say insert, it says insert row, insert row, insert row, insert row, insert row, insert one at a time, right? If I do delete, it'll do the same thing. Delete row. If I'm deleting 100,000 rows and I say delete from table where blah, 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 it will delete each row one at a time. It will not do it in bulk. Okay, it's RBAR. And every one of those gets recorded in the log. Okay, so it knows in the log, if you were to look at it, you figure out how to do it, you'd see the 100,000 rows each deleted one at a time. You see them there. Okay, I bring all this up because of this command. Y'all saw the drawings I did, right? Okay. So when I do this truncate table, it deletes everything at once. It's like flushing the toilet. If I say truncate table, everything goes at once. It doesn't register in the log. Everything's just gone. You've got an empty table. And if it wasn't supposed to be done, it's time to cry. Okay. Unless, of course, you took the class that talks about how to back up databases, which this isn't that class. So if I do this, everything's gone. And it said, when I did truncate, it said 0 row returns. When I did delete here, it said 46 rows affected. When I did here, 0 rows were affected. It just got rid of everything in the table. Okay. So that's all the coding I needed to talk about. Any questions on any of this? Deletes, updates, inserts. These become very important because if you guys do your final project, you need to write a bunch of insert statements for all your tables to make sure data goes in there. You need to write some, if you have a case study where something has to change in bulk, you've got to write an update statement that changes everything in bulk or deletes everything in bulk, right? So, for example, if you had a, let's say you're doing, so let's say you're doing like like you're doing like you were selling newspapers, for lack of a better word, right? Better thought. So, and every night you delete, you destroy the newspapers from 3 weeks ago that you had in inventory, right? So let's play this logic out. So one thing you've got to remember with data is we never permanently delete data. We've got to keep it somewhere. We've got to keep historic data, right? So if we had like a newspaper store and we had to delete 3,000 papers that we were destroying, we still need to know that we bought them at some point in time. So we want to send it to a historic table, right? So we could take those newspapers and insert from current papers to historic papers, the 3,000 into the historic papers, and then delete them from the current papers. Okay, so that's how, like, that's what all this is. So that's why these inserts, if that's what you're doing with final project, you would need to do that. So that's, that's where it goes, and that's why these things would do it. But that's just a sidebar thing. You should never truly delete data, even if like, and this is corporate workplace stuff, not class stuff. This is just real world stuff. Like, the reason why we don't do that is because we want to track all the data that's been changed and why, in case we have to be audited. Anyone hear what SOX compliance is? Okay, so a number of years ago, I remember the Enron scandal where like the finance company did all the evil things and stole all the money, and everyone bankrupt, and the bubble burst, and everyone got mad and was signs, and Wall Street was evil and all that other stuff. So these two guys named Sarbanes and Oxley, they were senators at the time, who aren't senators anymore, which I'm glad, because this was a stupid law. Put this thing into effect called SOX compliance. So that means in any business, any financial data that is changed must have a log of that change. So if I'm working in my company and I update something that has to do with financial data, I've got to track that change through everything. And I've got to prove later on why it was changed and who changed it and when it was changed and what the purpose was and all this other stuff. So that's where these insert and updates are come into play, because if we change one thing one place, we need to put that change, we need to put the original data somewhere else. I'm somewhere else. I'm going off on a tangent here tonight, so I apologize for that. It's just that in my real job today, we started our SOX auditing. So I'm in the phase of like them questioning why everything got changed. It's not my problem anymore. I just got to sit on the calls and listen to them berate everyone else, but you're gonna do. Anyway, so the purpose of tonight was just to make sure you guys understood the insert, update, and delete commands, and the fact that you can use them with inner joins and full outer joins, or full outer joins, and any kind of contraption that you want to make it with. Okay, so there's a lot to be done here. And manipulation of data, if you do just do a search like MySQL string functions, there's like 100 that you can use. There's concat, there's replace, there's random, there's all sorts of crazy things that you can do with it. You can do the same thing for like date, time functions, or integer functions. Okay, there's a lot of ways to manipulate data here. We don't really scratch the surface on it here. This is just basically, the fundamental stuff, but I like to throw a little more fun things in there because the random command is just fun. Because I think every person I've ever known, the first thing they do in databases make a die rolling thing. roll up characters for D&D. So and they put that data into it. They put the random rolls into a table, and they show, here's my character. So they just, anyway. I'm tangenting like crazy, and I do apologize. All right. Are there any questions on this? Everyone good? Everyone sounds like, okay. That is pretty much the work for this week. The quiz will, okay. So is it week 6 quiz or week 5 quiz? I think in the week 5 quizzes, did anyone come up with something that said the VI editor? Okay. So if you guys took, it's in week 6 then. If you guys took the week 6 quiz before I fixed it, you may get questions with the VI editor. Nowhere in any of the reading does it talk about the VI editor. I don't know why the questions are there. I've been trying to get them removed for like the last year and a half. If you're in a quiz and you get the VI editor question, just leave it alone. Let me know it's there and I'll give you the points for it. Okay. I think I deleted all of them. Someone pointed out to me, so I think I got in there and got rid of all of them, but I may have missed one. So there were like 13 of them. It was just inappropriate. So there's that. Okay. Any other questions? Because if not, we're going to end a little early tonight, and then because next week, I think next week is case statements, and then starting next week, I'll like half the class, half this Wednesday night will just be schemas and stuff. Anyone have questions on their final project? Any need quick help on that? Want to share their screen and show where they're at?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Online. I guess I can share my screen.
Okay. I got to make sure I give permission to do that because I keep forgetting. Okay, you've got permission to do it. Go for it.
Okay. Oh, you're still sharing. It won't let me.
Oh, let me stop sharing. Let me stop share. Okay, there we are. Hello, puppy.
Oh. Okay.
I'll bring my big dummy over here in a second. Hey, Plucky.
Okay.
Nope.
Do you see? You're seeing the wrong one, aren't you?
Yes, I see. Oh, yes. Okay. There were like, on a side note, there were like 3 launches here last week.
3 launches? Oh, we're there. Gosh. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to move there. All right. Do you see my ERD or do you see my?
I see your ERD. Okay.
I'm always confused about that. So my question is, I'm just starting like putting them together. And even, I don't know, I was just trying to do the relationship things.
Mm-hmm.
So programs, I think, is gonna be like the main one, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then like unmanned missions, and then manned missions, and then future missions. But then as I was thinking of adding other stuff, like I remember in our last class they told us not to cross the lines between things, like.
Oh, to make it pretty, yeah.
I guess, or I felt like there was a better reason for it, but maybe there's not.
No, anyway. It's just make it readable.
Okay. If I like split them out more, I'm gonna have like a whole bunch of tables, and I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. If I should just like simplify it.
Okay, so first of all, looking at this, let's talk about this here, okay? So you've got unmanned missions, manned missions, and future missions.
Yeah.
That is not normalized. What you should have is one table called missions. Okay. And then have a column in missions that says whether it's manned or unmanned. Or say you can do type of mission and do mission type, manned or unmanned, right? Okay. And then future mission versus past mission would be known because of the date, the launch date. Okay. Okay, so you definitely want that into one table. Okay. And then so you have,
I was gonna say, because like the Apollo missions, so there's the Apollo missions, and then there's Apollo 1, Apollo, whatever, up to 12. Yep. And so yeah.
So you have mission ID, mission name, right? Type, which would be like manned or unmanned, right? Launch date, launch site, and then program ID, spacecraft ID. That's great. Now crew, you have a direct link here. So I'm assuming there's more than one person on a crew. So you'd have to have a table between them saying mission crew, because if not, you'll have, if you do directly like this, you're in a many-to-many relationship, and we don't do many-to-many.
Okay.
Okay, so you get a table between there and call it mission crew.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so that's that. So normalized, you'd have one missions table, everything in there. Spacecraft, that's perfect. Do the missions crew table, that's perfect. Program, that's perfect. Okay. Also, just for my own, when I look at this, I would have original launch date and actual launch date, because they're never the same.
Okay.
And then you've got the locations. So launch site, that would be a link to one of the the origin locations here. So you'd link that across. You probably want to have like landing site.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mission. Mission objective, and so you'd want mission objectives, I would assume, and mission achievements. I would assume that a mission would have multiple objectives and multiple achievements. So you'd want a table between them.
Okay.
Right? And so this is interesting. So let me bring this up real quick while we're talking about this. It's an interesting point for me. So when you have mission type here, mission type, if you do now keep in mind, these are just my suggestions. You can tell me to go pound sand and do it your own way, because there's a million ways to do this, right? I just look at this as how I would think to do this. So when you do, if you do what I'm suggesting, you go just missions, and then you have a mission type table, right? So every mission will only have one type. You're not going to have a manned and unmanned mission, right? So I would still have a table called mission types that links to the missions table and foreign key it.
Okay.
And the reason why I would do this, and this is a great example of what we're talking about, we have to assume that the people who enter the data into our application are just out of elementary school. Okay. And if we just had a mission type, right, in there, and they could, we have the website, they're up there, and they can enter it in manually, and there's just an empty text box for them to type it in. You'll have unmanned with 4 N's. You'll have manned with a silent Q. You'll have manned with the number 3 in it. So what we want to do is when we're building these tables in the back end, part of normalization is to make sure data stays clean when it goes in, right? So if we have a types table, mission types table that links that, when they go to that website or that page to open up, there'll be a drop down list, and they can pick what's there, and that will go into it. And you'll have, of course, I'm pointing on my finger, you can't look at this. So here you have that missions table, mission types table that links over to here with a foreign key. Okay. So you won't have any problems with that. You'll have origin location. You'd also want, I wouldn't call this origins locations. I would just call this locations. And then in your missions table, you'd have a launch site and a landing site. And they would both come from the locations table. Okay. Okay. Payload is great. But we've got to assume that each mission might have multiple things in the payload. So we'd have a mission payload, because they might bring up like a telescope and a couple hamsters and a microscope and some of this. Yeah. So you'd have go ahead.
Yeah. So I was thinking each type of payload would have its own line, right? And then I'd have to,
Yep. And then you just and you have a table called mission payloads, and they would link over. So the payload ID and the mission, so your mission payloads table would literally be just the mission's payload ID, the mission ID, and the payload ID.
Okay.
It'd be 3 columns.
Okay. And that counts as another table, so that counts towards my 10 to 12 tables. Right?
Oh, you'll be fine with even taking away, even condensing these down into one table. You're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you've got to do join tables for these. So you're like 15 tables at this point in time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see, this is what normalization is. So unmanned missions, manned missions, and future missions, we can simplify that down to just missions. Okay. And then have everything as a qualifier there, because I think someone was doing, I saw a schema, they had they're doing for running, and they had past races and current races.
Mhm.
If you have a races table with the date in it, we know whether it's past or current or future, right?
Okay. Okay,
So
that helps
okay,
simplify. Helps me.
yeah. No, this is a, I mean, this is a great, you know, you're like 90% of the way there.
Yay.
That's solid. Yeah, you're solid. So you just need to now just join up all those tables and get that all done. You'll be you know, writing data to input them by the end of next week.
Yay, good.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Any other questions on final projects or anything else? Joseph, Jenny, Cade, that you guys are all doing final projects, right? Joseph, all you guys, yeah. I saw Jenny, I saw yours. I think I said I need to see your ERD because I like where you're going with it. I can't remember offhand, but I remember like the past 2 weeks you kind of told me what the tables would be. So let's see what those tables are going to be.
Yeah.
Let's get that fleshed out. Same thing with Kate.
And
I don't know.
so,
Go ahead.
So you want to see that each week with our weekly report or our weekly
I mean,
paper?
once the ERD is there, you don't need to do it again.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
you're with your first iteration of the ERD, you're probably looking at maybe 2 weeks of kind of redoing it and refixing it and massaging
Right.
it to get it just right so the data is flowing and everything makes sense.
Right.
And then it's just and then I never need to see it again until you submit the
Okay.
final project. And,
Okay.
and the thing is, for y'all, and the reason why I do this, and it's really kind of silly, is because if you guys are showing me all this stuff as we go along, when I go to grade it, I don't have to look at that stuff. I just have to look at the code. I'm like, oh, the ERD is fine. I've already seen that, you know.
Right.
And just so you know, one of the ways I grade it is I take the code that you wrote and I just run it and see if it works.
Cool.
So I'll run your create database statements and all that works. That's great. I'll run your insert statements and that works great. And then I'll look at your case studies and see, okay, this is the one, does the query, A, is your logic sound? And then B, does your query work? You know,
Cool.
so like, you know, Shonda, you might do a case study of like, you know, how many launches, how many rockets, how many missions were launched on their original date, you know, and then show that percentage and then like kind of see like, oh, you know, you also want to track the weather in that launch table to see. It's just, this is where I kind of go crazy. I go down these rabbit holes, like trying to think of how to fully flesh out the database, forgetting that this is just a project and not a fully fleshed out database. But yeah, I would track weather in there too. A good number of my students over the past several years have ended up making like applications that go with their stuff. So
Mine, I'm going to totally write a front end to use it at work. Make
yeah, absolutely.
It functional.
I mean, you know,
but I did.
Good.
I did submit my ERD. I responded to your comment.
Did you? Okay, I'll look. Honestly, I very rarely go back and look unless I notified there was a comment there, but I'll go back and look for yours.
Okay.
What was I going to say? But like if you make the front end and it's an application that works, I mean, market it, throw it out on the app store. If it's going to be an app on your phone, throw it on the app store, like charge $1 for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You get $1, you know? I've had a lot of people, just like I had one dude, my second or third year, made a comic book application that had like a little PPHP database backend and blah, blah, blah. And he put it on his phone. He's like made like $6, you know?
I know.
Plus, if you guys, I mean, if this is what you're looking for in your life, like programming, it's good to have an app in the app store and say, hey, look what I did. Yeah. So just a reminder. So when you submit your project, it's the ERD, it's the code to create the database and the tables, it's stuff to insert, as all the code to put the lines in there. It's the CRUD code, and then your test cases. And you don't have to actually mock up in any kind of computer a front end. You can draw it in crayon. I'm totally cool with that. And then you can either do a PowerPoint presentation or a video presentation for it. Like just like 5 minutes, just say, here it is, here's what it's doing, that I'll watch, and then I'll just run the code and see how it works. So, and that's due by the end of week 13. Earlier if you want. Someone asked me today if they could do the final exam early, and I realized that the motivated student can finish this course in like 3 weeks if they wanted to. You just go through and do everything and then you're done, because there's no time. You could take the final exam tomorrow if you're of the mind. But all right, Jenny, you're good. Sean, you're good. Kate, do you have any questions on your project?
I don't know. I can show you mine if you want to see what's
Sure.
going to look at
Let's
ERD.
see what you got. Yep. Let's see what you got.
So do I just hit share screen?
Yep. All right. I like it.
There we
Okay.
go. I don't know.
Oh, this is the bus one. Okay. Yeah. 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 Business account, private account. Okay. Walk me through this. What do you got here? This is a the rental thing, right?
Yeah. So I have because it's my brother-in-law's business.
Uh-huh.
And so he has businesses, like he'll just have contractors that'll come in to rent equipment. And
Right.
then like just anybody can come in, rent equipment. So I just put two different
Right.
accounts. So if you're just a private citizen, I guess, or a business, and then I have those kind of linked to the
Right.
rental table, and then he'll rent out. So he has like heavy equipment, light equipment. So I mean, you just kind of see that one
Right.
would be tied there. And then he also sells tools. And
Mhm.
so I just have a purchases that's also tied to both accounts.
Okay.
This one, I don't know if it's after I made it. I'm still trying to think because I don't know if he
So
has
let's
tools.
back
Go
up for a second. No, so let's back up for a second.
Okay.
So it's the same thing as with Shonda's. You don't need a business account or a private account. You need accounts,
Okay.
and then a column in that table that designates whether it's private or business, or personal or
Okay.
business. Okay. So that'll save you space there. You don't need a heavy equipment and a light equipment table. You just need an equipment table, and then have a thing in there with heavy, light, or medium. Okay. You definitely wouldn't have a rental ID in your heavy equipment table because that would all happen in the rental table. I think you just put I think you just put the arrow in the wrong direction. The rental ID should be the heavy equipment ID. The equipment ID should be up in the rental table, not in there. So that's it. So one there, make that one table. Purchases is great. And again, you'll only go down to one account ID here, right? So your brand's tools, you're right on point. A tool will only have one brand. Okay. It's like with his Ryobi or Workman or whatever it is. So you can go ahead and put your brand right. You want the table of brands, like I told you, for the same reason why we don't want people to put the wrong thing in, right? So you just have one table that goes into there for brands and the tools. Yeah, no, this is a great start. It's a great start. You just need to, this is all about normalization. This is exactly what you guys should be. This is really, really good.
So
Right.
question, so the brands, do I also want to tie this to my equipment?
Oh, yeah.
All the
Yeah.
equipment stuff's in the brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because equipment, like your equipment has a brand, it's like whether
Yeah.
it's like Caterpillar or whatever it is, so that you'd have one brand table that links into both of these. But every equipment or every tool only has one brand, right? So yeah. I don't know. Is your purchase table linked to your rental table, or is that just a weird thing that's going on here?
No.
Oh no, okay, that's right. Yeah. So, okay. So I like this. This is good. If you put those two tables together, the accounts table, that's good. The equipment table, good, and then have a business private here. So it'd be like a commercial account or a private account, but also, there might be other kinds of accounts that he has. Like I don't know, wasn't like a introductory account or temporary account or something like that. A prestige account. Someone who pays. So that way. Then your rentals are good there. I don't. So the question is, where would you? So I would think you'd put rental cost. So in the rental table, you need the cost. And I'm pretty sure that the rental cost would be in the equipment table on how much it costs to rent it per day or whatever, right? And then in your rental table, you'll have to have the date, the starting date and the ending date of the rental. So you can calculate so this is a great example here. Like, we have a rental table here, right? And we don't have the price here, but we have the starting date and the end date of the rental, and the price sits here in the equipment table. So that's how we figure out how much it costs, right? But here's an interesting, if I go too deep with this, I apologize. So here's an interesting thing. So we have our rental table, we have the starting date, the ending date, and we've got the equipment, the price of the equipment in here, right to rent. Nowhere do we keep the final price somewhere. It's always gonna be calculated between the rental table and the heavy equipment table by my logic that I just gave you, right? You following? What happens if the price changes? How do we know how much Tom paid 6 months ago before the price went up $10? So in the rentals table, we would have a total cost that would be a calculated column based on the price at the time. So we would know how much it was, right? This is kind of a deep dive thing, and I apologize again for going really deep, but this is an excellent start. Excellent start, I think. And again, this is something like, you know, when the back end is done, if you can put up a front end to it and your brother uses it, this is something you could actually package and sell at some point in time once you doll it up and make it pretty and stuff. I don't do pretty, I do functional. That's why I never sell anything.
All
I
that
don't.
stuff's still probably a little too advanced for me. So
No.
we're still learning all the computer stuff. So this
Sure.
is
This is like, you know, and I've been doing this 20 plus years, you know, and the story, I don't know if I told you the story, but like, you know, when I first started doing this, the first project I started working on my own, because my thing is the only way to learn this stuff is to play with it, right? To just get there, get your hands dirty, make changes, build a database, see what happens, blah, blah, blah. When I started doing this back in 2001, 2002, the one application I knew was coming down and I thought it'd be brilliant was a way to place orders and pay for your bill at a restaurant from your table. And I started designing a backend database. But I couldn't do the front end, and I had no one who programmed the front end. So I just kind of let die on the vine. And then, like, you know what? 5 years later, here's Chili's. They've got the app that I was talking about. Everyone's got a tablet, and you just do it there. I'm like, you know, dang it, missed. I could have been a billionaire, but you know, I'm now just a humble teacher saying, yeah, I could have done that. So don't be like me. You know, if you find and here's another soapboxy thing, I guess. You know, when you're in this field, meet people who do other stuff. You know, I had a problem today that I needed to find out some kind of security protocol, how to do something. And I called my friend from high school who got into IT the same time I did, but like he became CEO of a company and I'm still just like, you know, an engineer. But he gave me the answer I want. So have like a Rolodex of people, because if you have a great idea for a back end, but you are not a front end programmer, know someone who does front ends. Because half of $1 is 50 cents, and that's still a lot of money sometimes. You know, say I will design the back end, you design the front end, and we'll sell it, and we'll split halvesies. Or better yet, someone will just buy the application from you, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. You know, so you know, you being in school now, you guys are meeting a lot of people in classes. I know this is all online, so no one's doing physical stuff person, but like, you know, just get to know people, remember them, see people who are chatting and things, know what they're talking about. Like, you know, keep in contact with them, say, hey, you know, you want to do this, and see what they say. But or look in your wards too. I found a lot of people in my wards who do like database and programming stuff. So, but anywho, all right, Joseph, how are you doing?
Okay, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any questions on your final project? Are you doing good?
I'm doing okay. I'll have an ERD to show next week.
Awesome. Okay, cool beans. Well, if that is it, and no other questions, comments, or concerns, we will go ahead and end this for today, and I'll go back to the weirdly cold Florida. It's in the 40s. It should never be in the 40s here, but you know, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
It's hot here in California. It's like 80, 85.
It's always, where in California are you?
Northern California up near
Yeah.
Chico.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
but
How
you know,
stuff
it's
there.
normal now. It should be like 50, 60, not 80.
Yeah. Yeah. The one place I'm pretty sure just sold the devil is San Diego, because it is always perfect weather there. San Diego's just always like a nice balmy 79 and never rains. And I don't know how they do it, but maybe, I don't know. But I can't believe it's 85 in Northern California and it's like, you know, 45 here in Florida. That's just bizarre stuff. Yeah, well, yeah. Who knows? Sometimes God just does things to make people crazy, confused. Like when it was 32 here in Florida a couple weeks ago, it was like 50 something in Alaska. So It's all fun. Weather's fun. All right, guys. Thank you for tonight. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye. Night.